That's not my hand. The words scraped out of his throat before he even understood them. The skin he was staring at wasn't his, too rough, too pale, a surgical line running from wrist to elbow. When he tried to flex the fingers, they trembled like strangers attached by mistake. Machines hummed around him, each beep echoing inside his skull like a metronome counting someone else's heartbeat. A nurse appeared at the foot of the bed, clipboard in hand, voice calm but rehearsed. "Mr. Gray, you're awake."
Gray.
The name hit like cold water. He swallowed, mouth dry. "What did you call me?" She smiled softly, as if speaking to a frightened child. "Elias Gray. You've been unconscious for 6 days. The surgery went well." His chest tightened. He tried to speak, but only air came out. The room smelled of antiseptic and plastic, too clean for reality. A window showed nothing but gray sky and the reflection of wires running from his arm. He looked down at the ID band circling his wrist. Elias Gray. He tore it off, heart pounding. "That's not my name." The nurse hesitated, pressing a button on the wall. "Dr. Vale will." Vale. His head jerked up. The name was familiar, carved somewhere deep inside. "Did you say Dr. Vale?" Before she could answer, the door opened and a man stepped in wearing a white coat, mask lowered to his chin. He looked confident, too calm. "Good morning, Elias. I'm Dr. Rivers. You're safe." "Where's Dr. Vale?" The doctor blinked. "I'm sorry, Adrian Vale," he said, forcing the syllables through a throat that felt raw. He was supposed to. Rivers exchanged a quick glance with the nurse. "You've been through significant trauma. Names can blur after anesthesia." "I'm Dr. Vale," he whispered, gripping the sheets. "My name is Adrian Vale." The nurse's face softened with pity. "You're confused." Rivers moved closer, checking the monitor. "Your records confirm Elias Gray. Reconstructive facial surgery after a highway accident. You sustained third-degree burns. We're rebuilt. Well, quite a bit." He tried to smile the way people smile before delivering bad news. "But you'll heal." "I don't." Adrian started, then froze at the sound of his voice.
Deeper.
Grainier. Not his own. He pressed a shaking hand to his throat. "What happened to my voice?" "Post-intubation swelling. Normal," Rivers said quickly. Adrian's eyes darted to the mirror across the room. It was covered by a thin white sheet. Something inside him demanded to see, but his body felt anchored by fear. "Take it off." "Not yet," Rivers replied. "Your mind needs time." He swung his legs off the bed, ignoring the surge of pain. Tubes yanked at his skin. "Take it off." His voice cracked loud enough to make the machine stutter. Rivers sighed, signaling the nurse.
"Fine."
Briefly. She hesitated, then peeled the sheet away. The world shrank to a pinpoint. The face staring back wasn't his. Broader jaw, uneven nose, unfamiliar brown eyes that didn't belong to the man he remembered being. Adrian stepped closer, breath trembling, trying to find himself somewhere behind that stranger's reflection. But the mirror gave nothing back, no recognition, no mercy. He reached up, touching the stitches tracing down from temple to chin. The skin felt alien, like wearing someone else's mask. "What did you do to me?" he whispered. Rivers lifted his hands calmly. "You were Elias Gray. You had full face reconstruction. There was no alternative." "I'm not Elias Gray," Adrian said, voice shaking. "I'm Adrian Vale. I work here. I run this department." Rivers took a careful step forward. "Dr. Vale passed away last week. Car accident. His remains were identified through dental records." Silence pressed down like a weight. "That's impossible." Adrian's knees weakened. I was driving back from a conference. There was a storm." He stopped, the images in his mind flickering, headlights spinning, glass breaking, a flash of heat. Then nothing. "Exactly," Rivers said softly. "Memory distortion is common after trauma." Adrian grabbed the four-pole to steady himself. "Get me my file. My credentials. My keycard." Rivers turned to the nurse. "Sedative, please." "No," Adrian shouted. "Check my fingerprints." Rivers hesitated, maybe humoring him. He took a small scanner from his pocket, guiding Adrian's trembling thumb over it. The screen flashed green. Identity: Elias Gray. Adrian stared at it, heart breaking through his chest. That's not possible. Rivers placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Rest, Elias. The mind protects itself by pretending. Don't fight it. Adrian shoved him away, stumbling toward the door. 2 orderlies blocked him, voices blurring together. He struggled until something cold slid into his arm. Darkness crept from the edges inward. When he woke again, the room was dimmer. The window was locked. The mirror was gone. His hands were strapped lightly to the rails. A soft recording played somewhere, a woman's voice reading patient affirmations. You're safe. You are healing. You are Elias Gray. He turned his head and saw flowers on the side table. White lilies, his least favorite scent. A note was tucked inside the vase. Welcome back. No signature.
Footsteps approached.
The nurse, same one, checked his pulse without meeting his eyes. How are we feeling tonight? He stayed silent. When she turned to leave, he spoke quietly. Did you know Dr. Vale? She paused. I did. A brilliant man. Then you know this isn't right. She exhaled softly. Try to sleep, Mr. Gray. After she left, he stared at the ceiling, counting every sound, the faint buzz of lights, the whisper of air vents. Somewhere beyond these walls, his name, his life, and his face were being lived by someone else. He closed his eyes, testing every memory. His clinic's hallway, the smell of ethanol and coffee, the framed diploma on the wall. Each image flickered, unstable, as if someone had edited the film of his life. He tugged at the strap on his wrist until the skin tore. The pain felt real. That was something. He used the tiny buckle edge to loosen the leather, slipping one hand free. The hallway beyond the door glowed faintly blue from night lights. He stood, legs weak but determined, and crossed to the window. Outside, rain streaked the glass, distorting his reflection into moving fragments, half his new face, half shadow. He whispered his name again, just to hear it alive. Adrian Vale. For a second, the reflection moved differently, its lips forming the same words a heartbeat later, as if repeating after him. His pulse froze. He leaned closer, breath fogging the glass. The reflection smiled first. And for the first time, he wasn't sure which side of the mirror he was on. The reflection had smiled first. That single detail kept replaying in his head long after the lights went out and the hallway fell silent. Every time he blinked, he saw that grin, his own lips moving without his will. Sleep refused him. Somewhere down the corridor, a night monitor beeped in a slow, mocking rhythm, counting his confusion. By 2 a.m., he had undone the wrist straps again. The sedatives they used no longer dulled him. He had learned to let them drip slow and gather in the sheets. The nurse made her rounds every 30 minutes. He timed her steps by the squeak of her shoes. When the sound faded, he swung his legs over the bed and felt the tiles chill crawl up his bare feet. He moved like a ghost through the ward, gown flapping softly, for marks still raw on his arm. The door to the hallway wasn't locked. They trusted him now, believing the drugs kept him docile. Fluorescent light washed everything in pale blue. Cameras sat in the corners like quiet eyes. He tilted his head down and walked steady, as if he belonged there. He remembered every corridor. This had once been his hospital. But small details felt wrong. The wall color, the art replaced, new biometric locks on doors he used to open with a card. The sign ahead read, Archives. Authorized staff only. His pulse raced. If he could find his own file, he'd prove everything. The keypad blinked red until he noticed a nurse's ID badge hanging on a supply cart nearby. He hesitated, then took it, pressing the plastic gently to the reader. Green light. The door hissed open. Inside, rows of servers lined the walls, blinking in quiet rhythm. The air smelled of dust and cold metal. The hum felt almost alive, like 1,000 whispers layered together. He sat at a console, hands trembling over the keyboard. Login required. He tried Adrian Vale. Password rejected. Again. He closed his eyes, remembering the pattern his fingers had always made, an instinct of motion rather than thought. Third attempt. Accepted. The system opened like an old memory unwillingly revisited. On screen, the Reconstruct global logo glowed faintly, his own creation, years ago. Beneath it, categories unfolded: patients, staff, incidents, mortalities. He searched Adrian Vale. One result: status, deceased. Cause of death: surgical failure. Date: 6 days before his awakening. File locked by Dr. Jonas Rivers. He swallowed hard, clicking the attached media. A photo appeared, his own face, pale, burned along the left side, eyes closed under the morgue's cold light. Tag around the neck. Vale. Adrian confirmed. He stared until tears blurred the screen. The man he'd been was officially dead. He switched to another file, Elias Gray, facial reconstruction. A flood of documents opened: scans, progress photos, post-surgical notes. Each image showed a body on an operating table, its features reforming under bright lights. The timestamp matched the night of his accident. And in one still frame, captured from the overhead camera, he stood beside the table, scalpel in hand, operating on the burned patient. But when he zoomed in, the surgeon's eyes looked wrong.
Colder.
Detached. The same eyes that had looked back from the mirror earlier. He whispered, "That's not me." Footsteps echoed outside. He froze. The door handle shifted, a flashlight beam slicing the dark. He dived under the desk as the door opened. 2 security officers stepped in, scanning the room. Sensor tripped again, one muttered. Probably temperature drift. Their lights swept past his shoes. He held his breath until they left. When the door sealed again, he exhaled silently and turned back to the monitor. He found another hidden directory: Project Reclamation, Neural Synchronization Trials. Password protected. He typed his old master code. Access granted. The screen filled with medical logs, neural graphs, and confidential memos signed by Rivers. Phrases jumped out. Full transfer achievable via cortical mapping of donor to host. Test subject 07, Elias Gray. Surgeon 02, A. Vale. Consent waived post-incident. His throat tightened. Consent waived. They hadn't just rebuilt a face, they had mapped a consciousness. Used his crash, his coma, as the perfect test. He wasn't the surgeon who woke up, he was the patient rebuilt with a surgeon's mind. Or maybe the fragments of it. He scrolled to the final entry, video record, procedure 07A. He clicked play. The feed flickered. An operating theater, his team in masks. Rivers stood at the head, calm, clinical. On the table lay a burned man barely recognizable, him. Next to the table, a second body, Elias Gray, sedated, electrodes on his skull. Rivers spoke to the camera. Today we attempt cross-cortical preservation. If successful, Dr. Vale's knowledge and patterns will survive beyond physical loss. Adrian's heart pounded as he watched them attach neural leads from his own head to Gray's. Rivers's voice continued. Commence phase transfer. The bodies jerked once, lights flashing across monitors. Then static. The video cut. He stared at the frozen frame, his own open eyes, lifeless, as another man's chest began to rise. Behind him, something clicked, a sound too soft for machinery.
He turned.
Rivers stood in the doorway, half-lit by the server glow. I wondered when you'd find it, Rivers said quietly. Adrian rose slowly, every nerve sharp. What did you do to me? I saved you, Rivers answered. Your body was gone. This was the only way your brilliance could continue. You stole my life. Rivers stepped closer. You're thinking like a patient, not a pioneer. You proved your own theory. Adrian's voice cracked. I never consented to become him. Rivers studied him, eyes almost sympathetic. Identity is data, Adrian. We preserved yours. Isn't that what you always wanted? Adrian glanced at the screen showing both corpses, wires tangled like veins. That's not preservation. That's murder. Rivers's hand moved toward a hidden alarm. Adrian lunged forward, slamming it shut before he could press. The doctor flinched but didn't fight back. You won't make it past security, he warned. I built this place, Adrian hissed. I know every blind spot. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Creator and creation, the line between them erased. Then Adrian backed away, grabbing a flash drive from the desk and jamming it into the port. The files began copying, progress bar creeping forward. Rivers whispered, "If you expose this, no one will believe you. They'll call you unstable. You look like Gray, you sound like Gray. You are Gray." Adrian pulled the drive free and pocketed it. "Then I'll let the proof speak." Alarms began to pulse red. Motion sensors must have triggered again. Rivers didn't move to stop him this time. He only watched with something almost like pride. "You'll come back," he said softly, "because you won't know who to be without me." Adrian turned to the door. "Maybe. But next time, I'll know which face is yours." He slipped out as guards shouted down the hall, sprinting past the rows of rooms that once bore his name. The flash drive burned hot in his palm like a heartbeat. He didn't know where he was going, only that somewhere in those files lay the line between man and experiment. At the exit, he paused to catch his breath. A reflection in the glass door showed him again, the stranger's face slick with sweat, eyes wild but alive. The reflection moved in perfect sync this time. No delay, no smile. "Still," he whispered, "I don't trust you." Outside, sirens wailed closer. He pushed through the door into the rain, the sound swallowing everything but his final thought. If the records said he was dead, then tonight he'd learn what a ghost could really do. "I'm standing in front of myself," Adrian whispered, watching through the cafe window as the man who wore his name laughed easily with a group of medical investors. The reflection in the glass showed them both, one polished, alive, the other hollow, drenched in rain. The man inside was Adrian Vale in every measurable way, his voice, his posture, even the subtle hand gesture he used when explaining a point. Except Adrian was outside, unseen, breathing through the fog of a stolen existence. He had followed him for 3 days, tracing credit transactions, matching patterns. The flash drive had revealed enough to piece together the lie. Reconstruct Global hadn't just stolen his body, they had duplicated his consciousness. A full neural copy imprinted into a cloned cortex. That man inside wasn't pretending to be Adrian Vale. He believed he was Adrian Vale. The arrogance in his smile was painfully familiar. Adrian stepped back into the rain, heart pounding. If he confronted him here, they'd call security. The world believed he was Elias Gray, a burned ex-patient with a record. No one would listen. He needed proof that could speak without a face. By nightfall, he reached his old townhouse. The gate still bore the brass plate, Dr. Adrian Vale, M.D. He remembered engraving it himself, proud, naive. The house lights glowed warm behind drawn curtains. He climbed the side fence and crossed the garden where he used to plant white tulips for his wife, Clara. The scent of wet earth and rain pulled memories to the surface, her laugh echoing through morning light, her hand brushing dust off his sleeve before every surgery. Through the window he saw her, Clara, sitting on the couch reading. She looked older, sharper, but the rhythm of her stillness was the same. And beside her, on the opposite couch, sat him, the other Adrian. He leaned close, talking softly, reassuring her. She smiled the way she used to smile at him. Adrian's chest clenched. He knocked once on the glass. The two inside looked up. Clara gasped, hand flying to her mouth. The man beside her frowned, stood, and walked to the window. For a moment, both Adrian stared at each other through the rain-slick pane. The resemblance was flawless. The same scar at the temple, same weary eyes, same small tremor in the left hand. Clara rose behind him, voice trembling. "Who is that?" The impostor smiled faintly. "A patient. One of my reconstruction cases. I'll handle it." Adrian felt something snap. He stepped back as the door opened and the other man came out, umbrella tilted like a weapon disguised as courtesy. "Mr. Gray," he said smoothly, "you shouldn't be here." Adrian's voice shook. "Stop using my name." "You're mistaken." The tone was perfect, controlled, medical, kind. "You've suffered identity confusion, common after graft rejection. Let's go back to the clinic and— Say my name, Adrian interrupted. You know who I am. For the first time, the man's eyes flickered, tiny hesitation, but he recovered instantly. You're Elias Gray. You need rest. Clara. Adrian called past him. Look at me. Tell me you don't see it. She appeared in the doorway, pale, uncertain. Rain speckled her robe. Her eyes darted between them, confusion sharpening into fear. Adrian, what is this? The imposter turned. Delusion, he said softly. Trauma patient who believes he's me. I'm sorry you had to see this. No, Adrian gasped. Ask me something only he would know. Anything. Clara hesitated. Our wedding song, she whispered. Adrian's voice steadied. Moon River. You cried halfway through because the violin went sharp. You said it ruined the moment, but made it real. Her lips parted, the memories sparking recognition. But then the imposter spoke in the exact same tone. Moon River. I said the same thing because it was true.
See?
He read your file. The sound of his own voice used against him felt like a blade. Clara's confusion folded into pity. Please, she said gently. You should leave before I call the police. Adrian stared at her, drenched, desperate. Clara, they copied me. That man isn't me. He's what's left of me. The imposter stepped closer, whispering, Walk away. You survived something you shouldn't have. Let that be enough. Adrian's jaw tightened. You can't kill a ghost, can you? Ghosts only exist if someone remembers them, the imposter said quietly, and closed the door. For a long moment Adrian stood there, watching his own reflection vanish as the porch light dimmed. Then he turned and walked into the storm. He found shelter under an abandoned bus stop, the city's neon bleeding across puddles. In his pocket, the flash drive felt heavier than ever. Proof meant nothing if no one believed the man holding it. He needed a voice louder than his face, a digital echo strong enough to tear through the lies. He used a public terminal at an all-night convenience store, connecting the drive. The files blinked alive. He uploaded the entire folder, Project Reclamation, to a hidden journalist contact listed in one of the old conference networks. Anonymous subject line, I am not dead. Then he pressed send. When he looked up, the store clerk was watching the television mounted above the counter. News footage played, an announcement from Reconstruct Global CEO, Dr. Adrian Vale, promising new breakthroughs in neural ethics. His duplicate spoke confidently to reporters, smiling the same professional smile. Our mission, he said, is to preserve what makes us human. Adrian's hands trembled. He felt suddenly weightless, as if the air itself had stopped recognizing him. He stepped outside again, the world buzzing faintly with static. A car passed, splashing water up his legs. In the reflection of its window, he caught a glimpse of his face. Not the monster he expected, but something stranger. Pity mixed with rage, the outline of a man erased, yet still visible in the margins. He walked toward the edge of the district where the hospital lights faded into the horizon. Behind him, police sirens grew faint. Somewhere, Clara was probably asking questions. Somewhere, the imposter was already rewriting the narrative. He whispered to himself, if he's living my life, then I'll live his truth. He reached the top of a small bridge overlooking the river. The city's glow shimmered on the water, breaking into pieces. He stared down, trying to remember what his reflection used to look like before it lied to him. A phone buzzed in his pocket, a number he didn't recognize. He answered cautiously. A woman's voice came through, low and steady. Dr. Vale? He froze. Who is this? Someone who saw the video feed before it was erased, she said. I worked in data security at Reconstruct Global. You're not crazy. They did this to you. His pulse surged. Can you prove it?
Yes.
But not over the phone. They monitor everything. Meet me at Pier 12 tomorrow night. Before he could reply, the line went dead. He stood alone on the bridge, rain blurring his vision, the phone still pressed to his ear. Across the river, the Institute's tower rose like a mirror cutting the sky, every window lit with the life that had been stolen from him. He whispered to the wind, You wanted to play God, Jonas. Now watch what creation does when it remembers it was human. The river carried his reflection away in fractured ripples, and somewhere beneath the thunder, a faint echo answered back, his own voice, distorted, whispering from the depths. Find me. They turn me into my own experiment. The words left his mouth like a confession carved from bone. Adrian stared at the camera's red light blinking in the dark motel room. My name is Dr. Adrian Vale, he said, voice trembling but sharp. I was declared dead 6 days ago. The man running Reconstruct Global is not me. He's a copy, a construct built from my memories. If you're watching this, then the proof is already on its way. He hit upload, watching the progress bar crawl forward until it vanished into the cloud. His heartbeat slowed just enough to feel fear again. Outside, sirens moved like restless ghosts through the streets. He packed what little he had, a drive, a burner phone, and a photo of Clara, her face half torn from being folded too long. The call from the unknown woman echoed in his head. Pier 12. Midnight. Every instinct warned him it was a trap, but the part of him that still believed in truth refused to die quietly. The pier smelled of salt and oil. Waves slapped against steel like the pulse of a mechanical heart. He walked between stacked containers until he saw her, a woman in a gray coat, hood up, eyes darting. You came alone, she said. That depends who's asking. She glanced around before handing him a small, encrypted tablet. Everything you need. Video files, lab schematics, neural scans. Rivers used a black site for the final stage, the data cores still active. Adrian scrolled. Inside the archive was a neural pattern map labeled Vale_origin. A mirror file beside it read Gray_active. They duplicated me, he whispered. No, she said quietly. They merged you. Half his neural lattice, half yours. The line doesn't exist anymore. That's why he remembers your life perfectly. Adrian's hand trembled. And me. You're the remainder, the unstable residue of what was extracted. They were supposed to wipe you. The sound of tires screeched behind them. Headlights flared. The woman pushed the tablet into his chest. Go. A bullet shattered a container beside them. She fell without a sound. Adrian ran, heart pounding against the roar of engines. He dove into the cold water as flashlights cut across the surface. The tablet buzzed faintly in his pocket, its screen cracked but still glowing. By dawn, he was miles inland, soaked, freezing, but alive. The tablet guided him toward a remote facility, an older Reconstruct lab buried under the forest outside the city. He recognized the design. He had drawn these plans years ago, dreaming of saving faces, not stealing them. The gate's lock still accepted his retinal code. Inside, the halls were silent, lit by emergency lights. Dust floated in the air like memory made visible. He followed the signs to the neural imaging core, each step pulling him deeper into what felt like his own grave. In the control room, he found the main terminal still connected to the internal net. He inserted the tablet. The screen flickered alive, splitting between two neural signatures, one labeled active, his double, and another archived, himself. The system pulsed a soft warning, synchronization risk detected. He whispered, Let's finish what you started, Jonas. He activated a reverse scan, rerouting his neural imprint from archive to active. The system demanded biometric verification. He pressed his hand against the scanner, watching as it rejected him twice. The third time, the lights dimmed and a low alarm began to build. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Adrian turned as the door opened, and there he was. The man wearing his name stepped in calmly, coat immaculate, face unscarred. You couldn't let it go, the imposter said. You really are me. You're not me, Adrian said. You're what's left when conscience is deleted. The imposter smiled faintly. Conscience slows progress. You taught me that. They circled each other like reflections split from the same mirror. You destroyed a life for a theory, Adrian said. I built Reconstruct to heal people, not rewrite them. You built it to control death, the imposter replied. Now you're angry because death chose someone better. The sirens deepened, red lights washing across their identical faces. Adrian reached for the terminal. The scan will merge us back. One truth. One mind. Then we both disappear, the imposter said. Maybe that's the only way to end the lie. The imposter lunged. They crashed against the console, glass shattering, alarm screaming. Adrian struck first, years of restraint exploding into rage. The other countered with the same precision, same movements, same instincts. It was like fighting a memory. They locked hands, faces inches apart, both gasping. You can't win, the imposter hissed. The world already believes me. Then it will watch you die like me, Adrian said, slamming his forehead into him. The impact sent the imposter staggering back into the live scanner beam. Sparks burst. The machine roared to life, pulling both neural signatures into a wild loop. Adrian stumbled toward the console, bleeding from his lip. On screen, the data streams twisted together, two brainwaves fighting for dominance. He reached for the manual override, his vision swimming. If you want my life, he said through clenched teeth, then you take all of it. He slammed his hand onto the execute pad. The lights flared white. Both men screamed as the scanner erupted, flooding the room with blinding energy. When the noise died, only one figure remained standing. Smoke drifted from the ruined console. Adrian, his body trembling, his breath shallow, looked down at the other lying still on the floor. The face was his, but pale, empty, eyes open in shock. He dropped to his knees beside him, blood mixing with tears. You stole everything, he whispered, and still couldn't keep the soul. The building shook. Fire alarms triggered overhead. He grabbed the flash drive from the wreckage, shoved it into his pocket, and staggered out as flames licked the walls. Sirens wailed in the distance. Emergency drones circled above the forest canopy. Outside, the dawn broke pale and uncertain. He collapsed near the fence, coughing smoke, watching the facility burn. In his hand, the drive's indicator light blinked faintly, still alive. He pressed the button on the recorder one last time. If anyone finds this, know the truth. I was the surgeon. They turned me into my own experiment. But identity isn't what they steal. It's what you refuse to surrender. His voice cracked but steadied. They cloned my body, my face, my memories. But they couldn't take guilt, love, or choice. That's where the human ends, and the machine begins. The recorder beeped, auto-uploading the final log to the same encrypted network he'd used before. He watched the signal reach full strength, then fade into static. Helicopter blades thundered overhead, searchlights sweeping the treeline.
He didn't move.
For the first time, he didn't need to run. As the flames devoured the lab, he turned his head toward the faint reflection in a shard of metal beside him. The face staring back was scarred, weary, real. His. He managed a faint smile. "Welcome back," he whispered. The reflection blinked in perfect time. Then the screen of the recorder, half melted by heat, displayed his final sentence before dying. They stole a face, but not the soul behind it.